Hello and happy Tuesday. Welcome to Good Reasoning for Everyday Life, a free public interest educational project to raise awareness about concepts that can support good reasoning. The first concept that can support good reasoning is that of a proposition. You already know what propositions are. We're just putting a name to things you already know. A proposition is something you can believe. Not believe in the sense of trusting, like someone saying, I believe in you, but believe in the sense of believing it to be true. Here are some examples of propositions. Aliens exist. 1 and 1 make 2. Snow is yellow. Propositions are usually expressed in a language. It doesn't matter what language. Moreover, propositions may be true or they may be false. An argument is a collection of propositions arranged in a sequence. Here is the form that an argument takes. The propositions above the bar over here are what are assumed to be true. They are taken for granted. These propositions are often referred to as premises. The proposition here, below the bar, is referred to as the conclusion. This is not assumed to be true. This is what's trying to be shown on the basis of the premises. Just as people can have relations between one another, propositions can have relations between one another. Two important relations between propositions are when they are necessary and probable. The argument to the left is an example of a necessary relation between propositions. The relation flows from the premises to the conclusion, not the other way around. The argument to the right is an example of a probable relation. Once again, the relation holds from the premises to the conclusion, not the other way around. A key distinction between necessary and probable relations between propositions is that adding a new proposition to a necessary relation does not affect the necessary relation, but adding a new proposition to a probable relation does affect the relation. It can make it more or less probable. So far, we've been assigning truth to propositions hypothetically and seeing the relations between propositions that result. But what makes a proposition true? Here are some potential sources of truth. One potential source of truth is sense perception. This includes things like sight, touch, hearing, and smell. Sense perception can of course be augmented through technologies like the telescope and the microscope. Another potential source of truth is innate concepts. This includes things like number and quantity, negation, and other cognitive ideas. Another potential source of truth are emotional states. These are things that can only be experienced subjectively. These include things like fear, hope, desire, and pain. Another potential source of truth is testimony, a uniquely second-hand source of truth since it is not exposed to directly. Testimony includes things like news reports and stories retold from past events, like in history. Finally, one possible source of truth includes things like imagination. Could imagination be a source of truth? What is the nature of things in our society, like traffic lights or the way of the roads? We won't comment further on this potential source of truth. But for all sources of truth, there is the question of reliability. Which source of truth is most reliable? When is something true regardless of us or because of us? We will leave these questions open. When confronted with propositions, we have a choice to make. We can assign the proposition our belief, or we can hold back from believing and have a state of non-belief towards the proposition. The key to good reasoning is to assign belief based on the relation between the propositions and the reliability of the source of truth at hand. If a proposition or collection of propositions have reliable sources of truth and have a relation of probability or necessity that outweighs the opposite, good reasoning suggests to us to believe the proposition, or to believe the negation if that is appropriate. Otherwise, if there is no relation of necessity or probability between the propositions, or if the source of truth is not reliable, good reasoning suggests to us to hold back from believing, to have a state of non-belief. One important point to keep in mind is that non-belief is not the same as belief in the negation of a proposition. Non-belief is not belief in the denial. For example, imagine a conversation where one person says that aliens exist. Very often, another person will say, no, they don't. Both of these claims are asserting propositions. The first claim asserts a positive proposition, that aliens exist. The second claim asserts a negative proposition, that aliens do not exist. It is the negation of the first. It is important to keep in mind that both of these are in fact propositions, and if we assign belief to a positive or to a negative proposition, we are still assigning belief. Non-belief, on the other hand, is to simply have no belief on the matter. Non-belief is extremely important for good reasoning in order to leave room and make space to gather evidence and to determine whether in fact the proposition has reliable sources of truth, whether the evidence at hand increases its probability, or whether perhaps it follows by necessity from other known propositions. Thank you for watching this free public interest educational project to raise awareness about concepts of good reasoning. I hope that this is just the beginning of your own journey to learning and discovering more about good reasoning.